So good evening, everyone. Just wanted to update you on the fact that I am not the regional director any longer for Northern California for my company. I've gratefully stepped down, and I'm I'm I run two homes. I'm a manager of two homes. Um, and the regional director position was actually quite stressful for me, and um, I am so grateful to be back in my administrator role, where I can really work with the residents in the homes and their families and my staff. So recently, the past week or so, I've been thinking about music in relation to this talk. So if you can imagine being part of a symphony, each of us being a skilled player of an instrument, where we make beautiful music together. There's the violins, the cellos, violas. You have the clarinet, the flute, piccolo, saxophones. You have the piano, the horn section with the trumpet, French horn, trombone. You have the percussion section with the timpani, the bells, the snare drum, the cymbals. Maybe even a harp, maybe even a singer or singers. So imagine we're all making beautiful music. To me, this is very much like being, even tonight, where we're sitting together just for a 30-minute sit or a week-long session, where we're all sitting together, breathing in harmony. And then when we get up, we have a job to do. We have something to do. So if we're in session, we might wash the dishes, or ring the bells, sound the horn. The harmony can even apply to a sports team playing together. Or a family that's eating together, laughing and talking. It can even be like driving, when we merge onto a freeway and we merge into the lane with the other cars that are going. So if you imagine from that symphony hall where we're playing music, or the Zen temple, let's zoom in just a little bit to our surroundings. Maybe notice the squirrels, or the ants, the deer, the birds in the sky, the trees, the plane overhead. And then we're going to zoom out just a little more. And now we're looking beyond the symphony hall, where there are people driving around. There's people eating at restaurants. There's meetings being held. People are doing their thing while we're in the Zendo, or while we're playing music in the symphony hall. We zoom out even more. We see whole cities, rural areas, oceans, with all the myriad beings, the continents, the earth. And zooming out even more, picturing the earth and the moon and the sun and the galaxy. So when we sit, I want to bring this back to our sitting practice. My experience when I sit is that I experience this, what I describe, what I like to think of it as spaciousness, where we let our thoughts go. And we're just sitting, being ourselves. And while we sit, Dogen tells us to drop ourselves. He says, just sit, dropping off body and mind. So from Uchiyama Roshi in The Wholehearted Way, practice Zazen single-mindedly and drop off body and mind. It is said that to practice Zazen is to drop off body and mind. Some people say that we should gain Satori in order to experience dropping off body and mind. However, it should not be misunderstood as a kind of Satori experience where our body and mind seem to disappear. In Hokkyoji, it is said that dropping off body and mind is Zazen. Just to sit wholeheartedly is dropping off body and mind. When we sit, letting go of all thoughts that reify abstract concepts, all things fall off. This is dropping off body and mind. And for me, this brings on the flavor of emptiness, where everything is contained. As my teacher Angie would say, we're all part of the soup. A soup, I add the soup with no bowl. It's boundless, with everything contained, good and bad, light and dark, and everything in between. I'd like to talk a little bit more about actually driving. We all drive, and maybe most of us all drive. And the way I see driving, for me, I see my car as the Zendo. And I am sitting in the car that is the Zendo. And with the mind of Zazen, of just letting go of thoughts, it's a lot like meeting someone with no expectation, driving and being around other cars. You're trusting that they're not going to veer in front of you, although we need to drive defensively, but that most of the time we do just trust that everyone will go follow the rules and go with the flow. So what happens when we are cut off? Are we reacting? Through my Zazen practice, I've learned to see that person and not have any thought except for, I do not know what this person is going through. I don't say, oh, that's so and so. I don't get mad. I don't want to flip the person off. I actually have compassion for that person because they may be in a situation that we just don't know. And this is actually how, this is a very helpful idea or a helpful tool to use when interacting with others, people you don't know and people you do know, to see them as if for the first time, dropping your idea of them, no matter how well you know them, because we never know in what condition our friend or our brother or sister or mom or dad or spouse or loved one or even a stranger. You do not know their mindset. And so it's important to meet them as they are, as they present themselves. Just like driving a car. You don't know what their situation is. But to meet them with kindness and compassion, and not react if it's a way that might be startling. So in the wholehearted way by this is the book that I'm referring to. This is a commentary on Bendoa. Uchiyama Roshi says, when we drive a car safely, we do not handle the steering wheel and the brake pedal after thinking in our brain that we have to deal with these various things, right? So we drive basically on automatic, like we're on automatic. Naturally and freely, we keep away from other cars in the opposite lane or push the brake pedal when we see a pedestrian. This is the way our brain functions in life. We should drive our life safely in the same way we drive a car. The eye of thought is like driving a car with tension. For example, since I have no experience if I drive a car, I will be tense and even frightened, fearful of what is happening. It is dangerous, so I do not drive a car. On the other hand, if you negate your thought and leave everything to God, it is like driving a car with your eyes closed. This is also dangerous. Driving a car by letting go of thought means putting your brain as life into full function. When we sit zazen, our brain must be wide awake instead of being spaced out. Yet we should let go of thought and drive freely. We have to drive our life in this way. So it's funny how it all comes back to zazen. And how fortunate for me I feel that I have found this practice. In the way that the way that I interact with others and even live my life now, I'm so much more at peace. But I will say that it's not that I started sitting to get this way. You have to remember there's nothing to gain by sitting zazen. We're not trying to get supernatural powers or to be happy all the time, or we're not trying to get anywhere with our zazen. We just sit zazen. With nothing to gain. And you might find that in time, with the practice of zazen, diligent practice, you can find that Maybe you too are changed and softer, kinder, more compassionate. I do have a poem that I would like to end with. And this is a poem by Enji Boissevain called For All Beings. May all beings be cared for and loved, be listened to, understood, and acknowledged despite different views. Be accepted for who they are in this moment. Be afforded patience. Be allowed to live without fear of having their lives taken away or their bodies violated. May all beings be well in its broadest sense. Be fed, be clothed, be treated as if their life is precious. Be held in the eyes of each other as family. May all beings be appreciated, feel welcomed anywhere on the planet, be freed from acts of hatred and desperation, including war, poverty, slavery, and street crimes. Live on the planet housed and protected from harm. Be given what is needed to live fully without scarcity. Enjoy life living without fear of one another. Be able to speak freely in a voice and mind of undeniable love. May all beings receive and share the gifts of life. Be given time to rest, be still, and experience silence. May all beings be awake.